As the college football coaching carousel continues, the latest coach that has been fired is Steve Addazio at Boston College. This was one that wasn't too big of a surprise. A lot of people kind of saw it coming. I know when we talked about Rutgers being open, the mention that some of those Northeast candidates might hold off because of the Boston College opening. Steve Addazio didn't do horrible there. He was 44-44 in 7 seasons. He had 5 7-win seasons, so he didn't do bad. He got them to their 4th consecutive bowl game this year. He just can never get over the hump. So it'll be curious to see where they go from there. I kind of liked what Boston College was doing. They kind of went to a smash mouth, power-based rushing attack with the sole focus of so many teams are running these spread, finesse-type offenses that facing this power, downhill, Wisconsin-type offense would be a little bit different. However, just never kind of got going. One of the big reasons why it probably didn't is they're in a pretty tough division. They're in the Atlantic division of the ACC, so that's Clemson, Florida State, Wake Forest, Louisville, and NC State. So Louisville, when they had Lamar Jackson, were always one of the better teams. We know what Clemson is. Florida State had their run with before Jimbo left, they were one of the top teams. Wake Forest is good this year, and NC State had a good run the last few years too. So, but that being said, Boston College has a chance to kind of build off their success. Yes, getting into a bowl game every single year is an accomplishment, but you have to think, Clemson, Florida State, and Louisville are going to be your top 3 teams. Boston College has that potential to be the 4th team, and with the right hire, I think they can compete with Louisville for that 3rd spot. And maybe they can get into that 2nd spot depending on how long it takes Florida State, whoever they hire. But you'd think this is at best probably the 3rd best team in the ACC Atlantic. So with that being said, who are the candidates that Boston College could go after? Rumor is that Luke Fickell, Cincinnati's head coach, is the favorite. That's the coach that they want. You look at what he's done at Cincinnati. He's got them in the Atlantic Conference Championship game. He's had them in the top 25 for a majority of the year. I know they just lost to Memphis. They'll get a chance to atone for that loss this weekend. And he's done a great job of building that up. And he had he's a former Ohio State player, was the defensive coordinator for several years, was their interim coach for a year. One thing to kind of keep an eye on is Boston College's AD came from Ohio State, so he's got some connection with Fickell there. And as I said, I think he's got to be their front runner. He's kind of been more of a Midwest guy. So going to Boston College is going to be a little bit of out of his maybe comfort zone. But he's recruited Pennsylvania. He's recruited New Jersey while at Ohio State. So he's got some recruiting ties in that area. One name to kind of keep an eye on is Joe Moorhead, the current Mississippi State head coach. On the surface, Mississippi State is a better job than Boston College. You're in the SEC, so naturally it's a better conference. I know it is the SEC West, but that being said, it's hard to win in that division, and it's different. You're going from the SEC West, probably the toughest division in college football, to potentially the 3rd toughest. You see SEC West, you think of Big Ten East, and then this Atlantic isn't a cakewalk either with Clemson, Florida State in there, Louisville too. It's kind of a tough division, but Joe Moorhead hasn't had the most success at Mississippi State. He's coming back next year, but it's not like he got this huge extension. Could he decide to reset the clock and go to a school that kind of fits more in his wheelhouse? He is a Northeast guy. He coached at Fordham. He coached at Penn State. Would Boston College better suit where he is more comfortable and could potentially have more success? A couple other names, current head coaches. Lance Leipold is at Buffalo. He was a guy that was Division III, Wisconsin Whitewater. Had all the success there, winning Division III national championships. Goes to Buffalo, and he's steadily built them up into a MAC contender. Could he be ready to step up to the next level and go to Boston College? He's having a lot of success at Buffalo, and if he can get players there and win, what could he do at Boston College? Toledo's Jason Candle is another option. Another guy that the reports, if you read a lot of the articles from guys like Bruce Feldman and Chris Vanini and Football Scoop, that Jason Candle is a guy that they're high on. Toledo has produced some good quality coaches. Nick Saban came from there. Matt Campbell most recently also came from there. Gary Pinkel. So Toledo's produced some high quality coaches, and Candle's been a guy ever since he took over. You've heard a lot of high praises on him, and he's always been rumored for potential job openings. So even though they didn't have the best season this year, he is someone to kind of keep an eye on. If we look at some assistants, some assistant coaches, a lot of times these non-elite schools, a lot of times you get maybe an assistant that comes in. One of them that kind of keeps an eye on is Jeff Hafley, who's the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Ohio State's defense really took a big step this year with Hafley kind of taking over instead of Greg Schiano. He's a guy that's, he's at Ohio State now. Before that, he was in the NFL with the 49ers and a few other teams. He previously had coached at Rutgers and Pitt and was noted as being a good recruiter at both of those schools. So he's got those Northeast ties. If you're coaching at Boston College, you're going to have to come down to Pennsylvania and New Jersey to get prospects. So the fact that he's familiar with that area, he's got the Ohio State name to him, he's got an NFL job attached to him. So that's another guy that if you're willing to take a look at an assistant, he's definitely someone that's high on a lot of people's lists. Mike Elko, Texas A&M's defensive coordinator. Here's a guy that came from Notre Dame. He's, national recruiting at Notre Dame. Before that, he was at Wake Forest, Bowling Green. He also is from the New Jersey area. He coached at Fordham and Hofstra. He's never been a head coach before, but he's orchestrated a lot of high-powered defenses and strong defenses, stingy defenses, whatever you want to call it. He's a Northeast guy, and that's definitely something to kind of think about as a potential landing spot. Al Washington, Ohio State's linebackers coach, is a former Boston College player. Another guy that people talk about, he's going to be a head coach someday. So I don't know if Al Washington's going to be a guy that's their top choice, but if they kind of have to go down the road a little bit, he's definitely somebody that's got some ties to Boston College. If we look at the NFL route, there are a couple coordinators that have some ties, that make some sense. Shane Waldron is a Sean McVay guy. He's the current quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator for the Rams. This past year in the NFL, we saw if you shook Sean McVay's hand, you were going to get a head coaching opportunity. So Shane Waldron is definitely a guy that's in those veins this year. He's a former UMass assistant. He used to coach with the Patriots. So he's got those Northeast ties once again. He went to college in the Northeast in the Boston area, not at Boston College. So once again, another guy that's familiar with that area, and the Patriots have quite a bit of pull there. So, getting a former Patriots assistant could help. One coach to kind of keep an eye on. I don't know if they're going to get this guy, but Pete Carmichael is the Saints offensive coordinator. I think just saying Saints offensive coordinator tells you a lot. He's another former Boston College player, so I don't know if he's a guy that wants to be a head coach, especially in the college, but you'd think with his offensive acumen, the fact that he played at Boston College, if he wants this job, Boston College would be silly not to listen to him or not to consider him and bring him in. He may not be option number one, but I think if he wants the job and he's interested in it, I think he's a guy that you have to really consider, just because, you just look at what the Saints have been doing with Drew Brees, with Teddy Bridgewater. That offense is going to translate no matter where you go. So he'd definitely be someone to kind of keep an eye on. I have a feeling that if Luke Fickell wants this job, it's probably going to be him. My dark horse is Joe Moorhead. If I had to kind of make a guess on who I think is going to get this job, I think it's going to be Jason Candle, just because of I don't think they may not get a few of their top choices. One guy that just came to my mind that I didn't mention is Brett Bielema. Brett Bielema is currently the defensive line coach for the New England Patriots, former Arkansas head coach, former Wisconsin head coach. If he wants to be a college head coach again, this might be a natural transition. The team sets up pretty nicely for him. They ran a lot of the same style of football that he ran at Arkansas and Wisconsin. So if he's another guy, I don't know if I think he's enjoying coaching in the NFL from what the looks of it, but he's definitely somebody that it wouldn't shock me if he got hired.